Hi guys! Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, I'm Jamie of Jamie B Books, and I have my monthly TBR sort of shaping up for November. My books are all in disarray because I'm gradually moving books over to where I'm going to be living by the end of November. So I will probably still do a wall of books, but I'm not sure what size wall it's going to be, and I want to make sure that I'm not going to make a wall of books and then move them and not know where they all are. So in the meantime, I do have a small core of TBR that I know I'm going to be trying to get to for November. There are several different things going on for November in the Booktube world that I will probably be trying to finish books for. One is the Rating Project Gutenberg project. I definitely do Project Gutenberg, especially combination of Project Gutenberg and LibriVox. So I did pull up some LibriVox recordings and put them into a playlist for November. The books that I pulled up, and these I also have links on another page for myself so that I can find them on Project Gutenberg quickly. I have Tono Bungay by H.G. Wells. I have Shirley by Charlotte Bronte. I have The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton. The Bunner Sisters by Edith Wharton. The Glimpses of the Moon by Edith Wharton. Castle Richmond by Anthony Trollope. And The Underdogs by Mariano Azuela. So those are books that I'm going to try and get to that might be audio or Project Gutenberg or some combination of the two. So in addition to those, I have print books for projects. One book that I'm going to be reading specifically that will be possibly audio or Project Gutenberg, but that I have print books as well for, is Poor Folk by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I have two different copies of it, actually, because one is Poor Folk and Other Stories, and the other one is Poor Folk and The House of the Dead. So I'm going to try and finish the other things with Poor Folk in both of these volumes so that they will both be done. And they are actually both my sister's books, so they go back to her when I'm finished. So those are two books that can be read and go back where they came from. It'll be very exciting. Another book that I'm going to be reading for a group reading project is for the book club that MsReadsAlot does, and their monthly book is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. So I will be reading that for November, and I've been looking forward to that one for a little while. I don't know a lot about it, but it's come highly recommended from several quarters, so probably will be good. Then there's also, if you haven't heard of it by now, you've probably not been on YouTube very long, the Nonfiction November. So for Nonfiction November, I pulled 4 different books, and I'll pull them up here. So here's my nonfiction books for Nonfiction November. There's 4 different prompts for this reading game. The first prompt is fraud. For that one, I chose a book that I got as a Goodreads giveaway copy. So it's an ARC. It's not actually in its full print form. So Stalin's Englishman by Andrew Lownie. This book is about one of the Cambridge Five, the highly placed Russian spies that all were students at Cambridge and got recruited as college students to be spies for the USSR. And they worked their way into some really high positions in the British government. And they weren't found out for a long time. It was really embarrassing when the British figured out that they were spies and how long they'd been spies. So this is a book about one of them. Definitely seems like a good book for fraud. All right, the second prompt in that one is capital. Okay, and this one is so obvious. Yeah. Yes, I read volume 1 of Karl Marx's Capital in grad school. And my advisors, told me, especially my theory advisor, that there's 3 volumes to Capital. And my interest in the social side of capitalism and advanced capitalism and socioeconomic policy during advanced capitalism falls more within volumes 2 or 3 of the 3-volume set of Penguin edition books anyway. So yeah, I haven't read them yet, so I really need to. So, Capital, it says it on the cover. And that one was an obvious one. I also have volume 3, but I don't know if I'll get through both volumes in 1 month with reading other things. In grad school, I would have gotten through them in a week, but it was a very different reading environment. So the next one is web. So for web, I chose Emergence, because emergence is kind of a concept of all these things that come together to create a sort of gestalt behavior. So a web of interactions and discrete things that come together. So it seems like a good fit for that prompt. And then for display, I chose On Photography by Susan Sontag. So those are going to be my specific Nonfiction November prompt books. I also have a lot of nonfiction in the bookcase behind me. So my weekly TBR is going to include other nonfiction as well. Probably my reading will be about 50% nonfiction this month, just because a lot of my other books are going to be moving to the new place. So over time, the only books that are going to be here are the ones that are on my TBR shelf for November. So I might actually focus on them because everything else will be, down the alley. All right. So then there's one other event going on that I'm going to be participating in. The World War November. So for World War November, I found this on a free shelf and it just looked so interesting. It's the Wartime Letters of Rainer Maria Rilke. And I know I like Rilke, so I don't know if I am going to like the collected letters. Sometimes collected letters are the sort of thing where you have to be a fan to be into it. And I don't know if I'm that kind of fan. But I've read some collections of letters that were really good. There was one, I've never seen it since. I've read it probably 3 times through while sitting in the 3rd floor of the university library during undergrad. It was the collected letters of Theodosius Dobzhansky. Dobzhansky was a geneticist and traveled all around South America, having all sorts of really terrifying adventures, all in search of fruit flies, because that's what he did his research using. So he would go into these areas where no white people had ever been before, and he's, braving the rainforests and the ants and the snakes and the panthers and the tribes people that would kill him as soon as show him where the fruit flies are, so he can get to the fruit flies. They turned out to be really good. And that was a collection of letters. That was actually one of my favorite books that I read in undergrad. If I ever find a copy, I'm definitely going to adopt it. But I have a feeling it's one of those that, unless I find it on the free shelf, it's probably pretty expensive. But, so, I don't know. This one might be good. It might not. And then there's another book that is for sure on my November TBR. This one is another book of poetry. I read E.E. Cummings for October, a short one. But for November, the Andre Norton book that I'm currently reading, 2 pages in, was quoting Keats. And I thought, oh, I just saw a book of Keats when I was packing up books. And sure enough, I still had my book of Keats on my shelf. Which means, for November, I'm going to try reading the complete poems of John Keats. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see how many weeks it takes. I'm going to try to do a couple poems a day. And at that rate, I might finish the book by the end of the year. If I really like them, there's no upper limit on how many poems I can read in one day. But I'm not going to make myself sit down and just read Keats for however many days straight it's going to take to read this book. Because if you've seen any of my other videos where I talked about poetry, I don't like poetry. Yeah. But every once in a while I find a poem that I like. So you never know. I might find a poem by Keats that I like, or at least lines in poems that I like. That actually is possible. So those are the books I'm going to be for sure trying to read in November. And I will put together a week 1 of November TBR stack for sure, even if I don't do a proper wall of books video or series of videos. I have a feeling everything behind me and a couple stacks that are not behind me are going to be my wall of books. And I'm not sure that I want to put anybody through me going through all the books in one video or even 3 videos. And I don't know how many of those are going to actually stay through to the very end of my being in this apartment. So this may be the 1 month exception where I don't actually have an official November wall of books. But there will be a TBR coming up that shows my TBR for the week, for the first week of November at least. But we still have, not quite 24 hours left in October. And I still have a lot of books I'm in the middle of. So I'm going to get back to reading books and see if I can finish any more books that count for October. And I will catch you guys again probably tomorrow night with a TBR video to start out November with at least some idea of what I'm going to do starting November 1st. So let me know if you are reading any of the books that I'm reading, or if you're doing any of the challenges that I'm doing. And yeah, we'll get into some really good books next month. And I will see about getting some kittens on the screen again, hopefully soonish. Right now they've got a cold, It's been going around. So they are not all the most presentable kittens. They're running around. So I will be getting some more kittens on the screen. I actually am down to just 2 cats here at the moment. 2 of my cats went to the new place. So I've just got 2 left here and my kittens. So there's fewer felines to be on the screen at the moment. But when I get to the new place, I have my cats and the cats that are already there. There will be lots of cats. So I will catch you guys again in about a day. Yeah, a little under a day. And happy reading until then. Bye, guys.